Hello.
Hi, Mary.
Hi there. How are
I am
you?
so good. So, welcome to our group.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, this is the Mary Harker, founder of the Harker 5-Star team. So, Mary, this is such an honor for me to be able to talk with you today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor for me to be here.
You're so kind.
Anytime I can be a blessing or pass on any advice, it's my pleasure to do so.
You're so kind, and there's so much for me to learn from you. There always has been. So today is such a full circle moment for me today, just as you and I have already discussed. And our chats have just always impacted me. And recently I've been able to have personal chats with you, which have meant so much to me. So I think it's important for our audience to understand what today is for me, or for anybody. So in our lives, we have mentors. Yes?
I'm sorry?
We always have mentors in our lives.
Yes. Can you turn that up a little bit?
So whether we have mentors that we talk to on a daily basis, or whether we have mentors that we never speak to at all, we always have mentors. And
yes,
I got into real estate when I was 21, and when
oh my goodness,
I was 22, my broker said, "Listen, I know you're broke. However, you have got to go to this conference. No matter what you do, you've got to go." And I did. I went. And back then, the internet had just come out, which is so difficult for some people to understand. And we were all about branding. And you've always been one to share, and very generous. And I went, and you were there sharing all of your materials and your flyers and your branding. And your son Dan was on a panel titled Young Lions.
Oh my goodness.
And they're sharing and everything like that as well. Well, and I picked up your materials, and you impressed me so much. I wanted to be Mary Harker so bad. And I was going to model and do everything that the Harker team said to do, because you were one to model after, for sure.
Oh, thank
so,
you.
Mary, I have something to show you. This is what I did.
Should I walk around?
No, here.
Oh my goodness. That is a surprise.
I modeled your marketing and your brand.
Uh-huh.
To a T.
To a T, huh?
Absolutely.
That's great.
And I went to Young Lions, and I asked Dan, I said, "What do I do? I'm only 21, and people won't call me back." He said, "You need to cut your hair and wear a suit." And I did. I cut my hair like Mary Harker.
Oh.
And I wore a suit everywhere I went.
Oh my. Bless your heart.
And I put a house inside my B, like a house inside the H. And I sat on top of my name, just like Mary Harker.
Oh, that's great.
That's me at 21.
Oh my heavens. Well, I feel very honored.
So thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Yeah.
My goodness. Anytime you can take it and plus it and then send it back, it's just a great way of doing things.
Yeah. This is a full circle moment for me.
Oh, that's
Thank
awesome.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
I am so excited about today. It was hard to sleep last night for me.
Oh.
It really was. Yes.
Oh, so, well, I think we'll just share and be a blessing to whoever we can be, share with, and hopefully we'll say something somebody can take away.
Absolutely. So tell us all, when did you start selling real estate?
1968.
Awesome. Yes.
This is 50 years.
And so tell us what that looked like at that time.
Well, we were moving to Northern California from Texas, and my dad said, well, why don't you put a sign in the yard yourself? And so I went and got a for sale by owner sign, and it sold to the first people that I talked to. And it's a when I got out to California, Dad said, you must be a natural, get your license. When I got back to Texas, because we were sent back almost immediately, Joe was flying for Braniff Airlines Pacific Military Airlift at that time. And they sent him back. He was carrying troops over to Vietnam. And when we got back, I thought, well, I'll go get my license. So I did. In the first year, I made $378.
Wow.
So I wasn't exactly a barn bird.
Right.
And people said, well, weren't you just disappointed and think you were never going to make it? And I said, heavens no. I said, it took me all year to make $1,000 teaching violin and piano. So to make $378 in one house, that was 10% of 3% of the house. It was a little house. It was a lot of money. Yeah. But it was all about getting educated. And it was all about training and going out and experiencing it. Now, of course, we have much easier ways because there are lots of training classes. So by the second year it was 5,000, the third year 15,000, and on from there. And when I handed the business over to Dan, it was above 50 million. So that's how it started to look.
That's amazing, Mary. I love it. When did you hand the business over to Dan?
Well, when Joe said, I want to go to Colorado, I hope you want to go too. I said, well, of course. We've been married now 60 years plus. So I wasn't going to let him get away now. So anyway, he took over pretty much officially. I finally was able to let go of the reins in 2008. We moved up there 6 months a year in 2004. Yeah.
Nice. How many are on the team?
There's, I guess, 10 if you count auxiliaries. Yes. And when I left, it was just family and a tech person and marketing and a personal assistant. So I didn't have an assistant for 16 years. And that I would encourage anybody to hire a teenager. Go and get a teenager to run all those errands you don't have time to run, the groceries, the cleaners, the dog groomer, whatever you need to do. But save your time to pick up the children and make sure that they have priority. Because in my life, it's God first. I wouldn't be able to do one single thing I've done without God at the center. And then bringing right under that Joe, and then the kids, and then friends, and then business.
Yes.
So it has to be priorities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even when I was doing it all, Joe would be gone for 2 weeks at a time. So I suppose that sometimes I was a single mom, but it was really, I love people. And so it was very easy for me to go in the grocery store and they'd say, well, how's real estate? And I always wore my badge. Right. And I'd say, well, incredible.
Right.
It could be incredibly bad or incredibly good.
Right.
So it's just your perception.
I was going to say that.
But the kids are my biggest blessing. And because you don't get overs, make sure that you put them front and center when you need to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what is your true passion, Mary?
Loving on people and being a blessing every day and making a difference in somebody's life every day. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't think I've really accomplished anything that day. Yeah. And it's just finding the passion that you have to do whatever you're doing. It didn't matter whether I was selling puppies or teaching violin or teaching piano. I learned to absolutely compartmentalize my mind to where 100% I was with family or with Joe or with violin. I played with the symphony for years and taught violin and piano. Whoever I was with, that was the most important. And I couldn't think about other things. When I got home, it was always the kids.
I think there's a huge lesson in that, Mary, because we live in such a technology age these days. We don't do that. We don't absorb who we're with at the moment. Yeah. That gets lost nowadays.
You have to be present with the kids. If you're on the phone and and they're on their iPads, and I would think that having the Game Boys, and they need to learn to put those down, just like we need to learn to put the phones down, because if we don't teach that, they model whatever we do. And to be a good mom, it takes showing extraordinary leadership.
I think we also
work
that in our
I'm sorry.
Well, we do that when we're in training. When we're in training classes, we put the phone down so that we can absorb the material. And so, when we're with clients, we put the phone down so we can absorb and pay attention to the client. And so it should also translate over to the family so that we can pay attention and absorb our children. It's almost like
find out what's important. Find out what's important to the kids. And in our case, music was always very important to me. So I would always take Gwen to her piano lessons, and we had all that time to talk while we drove down to SMU and for cello and whatnot. And then I could take the boys during her lesson and take them to play at the park. So I took the kids with me almost everywhere I could go, because babysitting really, that didn't happen much in those days. You might exchange it with another mom. But I would say in today's life, I would think it's very expensive to have childcare. So if you can work out friends to help you with different things and free up your time to where you have time with the children when you're with them, and have time with real estate when you're having to do that, and make boundaries. I never showed on Sundays. That's the day we go to church, and it's family day. And I think when you honor God, He honors you. And the holidays were just off limits.
Yeah.
And they still
setting those boundaries.
It's family time.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes. Setting those boundaries, that's what's key, to set the boundaries. It's not easy for everyone, but if you do it on the front, it's setting the expectation, and doing that with your family.
Yes, and I think
is key as well. If we can do it,
I think I think if you tell them, you see them as they will become, treat them as they will become, just as God does for us, because we haven't become what He wants us to be. And so if we treat the kids as though they're valuable and so worth all the time, they will grow up with that self-esteem. It doesn't have to be with their uniforms, their clothes, whatever that is. Let them have the inside. Our kids grew up with prayer. They grew up with grace at every table. And for me, that's the important thing, is that we were put on earth to love God and love and serve other people. And that's what I've tried to do. So my mom, I'd say, she was with us for, I'm sorry?
You have succeeded. You have succeeded with that, Mary. There's a lag.
Oh, thank you. Well, it comes a lot from the influence of my mom. She was a tremendous influence. She was a concert pianist, and she grew up on a farm in Homestead in Montana in 1905. And she would always tell me, as in her later years, I'd call and say, "Are you going to have a good day?" And she'd say, "Why, Mary, of course I am. I don't have enough hours left in my life to have a bad hour, let alone a bad day."
Oh.
So that's a pretty good motto to live by. To live as though you're above the fray. Stay above the fray, because it will come and go as we learn lessons or teach lessons. And you're sort of standing in an ocean. And there's waves in the ocean, and yes, they're going to get you. And just know it's coming, and go, okay, and brush yourself off, and teach the children that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Mary, how long have you been married?
60 years. We're in our 61st year we're going into. So,
Yes.
And it's been one step at a time. We were married at 16, and so we were very young, and we just worked together to make it work. And we went to college together, and we did whatever it took to make it work. Every day was a journey. It's just a journey, and it will be with the children. They'll go through passages, and having 8 grandchildren, which we just adore. Joe said the wonderful thing about having 8 is you're always happy with at least one of them. So just know that comes and goes, because that's kind of life, isn't it?
Right, it is.
And they're
it's
happy
definitely
with
a
us.
journey. But I mean, I think
Once in a while.
I'm sure they are. And so, but I think it's important to point out, Mary, that you've not only been a very, very successful businesswoman, that I mean, you didn't even hire an assistant until after you've been in business for 15 years, and then handed over a huge team producing $50 million to your son, and you've raised 4 children, right? 4 children that are all
3 children.
Amazing people.
3 children. I lost one, and there's and 8 children, 8 grandchildren. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's creating that environment of, no matter what's going on, whether it's at the office or at the home, that it's okay no matter what's going on. My father had some challenges physically, and mother had some things, but we lived above the fray. That was just stuff that happened in life. In life, it just happens in life. When you go to the office, to drop everything off and take nothing into the office with you, because it's so important to be focused on the buyer or the seller at that time, and to be very, very focused and purposeful, and to make every second count. Always be a life learner.
To keep those emotions between the lines.
I'm always in classes, and I think the children, I think they became such good kids because they grew up watching us go to school. Our daughter did. We always had a book in our hand. We were always studying and playing with her, and reading to her, and taking her with us. And when the boys came along, they would see us going to classes. We would take them. As Dan and Joe got older, I took them to all the conventions and had them sitting, learning from great leaders. Surround yourself with people of value, people, not foolishness. Surround yourself with people that will edify you and that you learn from.
You are who you surround yourself with. But Mary,
Playboy, if you're reading the Bible, there's going to be a big difference in 5 years. I don't know what you think.
There's a big difference.
And the people that you hang out with, make sure you're with positive people. I don't hang around with negative people. I don't have time for it. But I told Dan when he got into business, I said, I will help you be the finest realtor you can be if you take and listen to what I say and be a sponge and then apply it. And he has done that. And one of the best things he did was sending out Chicken Soup for the Soul stories. And he took our client list and his database and started writing, gathering up. Do you know the Chicken Soup for the Soul stories, Mark Victor Hansen's books, that whole series that came out? We would find he would find a touching story and mail that out to him, or send it out to him. You could, I guess, send it on Facebook today or whatever. And they would comment on it because it tied them into their family so much. Right. And if you can find something that is important to them, it has to be important to them for them to want to come back to you.
Treating others how they want to be treated.
Yes. Stop by and see them. Call them. Write notes to them. Be where they are. Be in the river of, if you're looking for referrals, be in the river of referrals, where the boulders are. Where is that? What activities do you like to do? Then get involved in those. If you're going to your children's games, there's all kinds of moms who know 200 people who 4 or 5 at the time are moving at any given time. And get to know them and ask them their story.
Mary, what were your biggest tools for leverage?
I'm sorry?
What were your biggest tools of
Biggest tools for, I would say 2 things. Hiring young people to run all the errands that have to be done, all the things, the flyers, whatever. Hire the young people. They do it quickly. They do it well.
Yeah.
Secondly, probably we took every commission that we had. We took say $25 and sent it into Children's Miracle Network. That was the hospital that our granddaughter was born in. But the year before she was born, we were fundraisers. And they'd been doing golf tournaments and that sort of thing. And we presented them with a very, very big check as an office. And they took a picture of the check, put it in the newspaper. And I said, you know, if you really want to be effective, have a board of directors for raising money for this charity. So a lot of the people came into, wanted to be in it. I said, I'll pick out the people to put on your committee. And they decided they would send $25 a month instead of having a golf tournament. Now, $25 a month went to CMN. They in turn took the mailing list that it was to go out to. So they took 20 names and they sent cards out to whoever we asked them to send out to. And it said, Mary Harker and the 5-star team have said, you're being honored. In your honor, we're sending out a card.
Yeah.
The card said this. In your honor, the Harker 5-star team has made a donation for you. Right. And the people were so touched by that. And so I went to the fundraiser and I said, okay, what if we give you a list of people that touched that transaction that we want on? So you would be the agent, and Claire, and I would send money into CMN. They would send the note out to you and you would receive it. And here a donation had been made in your honor and by the Harker team. And you had been the other agent. You went to the mortgage person, the landscaper, the decorator, everybody that touched that transaction. And what happened from that was agents would call and say, Mary, I have never even been thanked for being on the other side. How many times do we write each other and say, thank you for being on that side? The mortgage company, we had one call and he said, you know, I need to know more about CMN. What do they do? And I said, they help every child that has a disability and issue. And I said, for instance, our granddaughter had hydrocephalus and she had to have surgery. Well, there's nothing better than the Children's Miracle Network. You make a wish, the heart, whatever your charity is a favorite. KW Cares, make a donation to that. But I don't know whether they would take your list and then mail out the card with their stamp. That saves you money. But they would call, and the mortgage guy called and he said, this has touched me so much. I had no idea you all did this. We want to start donating from what we receive at the title company or the mortgage company out to our sphere of influence. So now think about that. In real estate, now they've gotten thanked, and the kids, there was a family that said, you know, let's list with Mary because she cares about families. She cares about families because she sent a card when we had open heart surgery on their little girl. And let's list with her. Well, I didn't expect that, but that was the impact it had on it. So by honoring others, the blessing comes back. And that's all you're trying to do is bless each other and help each other and thank each other.
Right.
That was a very long drawn out. I tend to get very verbose.
Yeah.
But that was one simple way of doing it.
Yeah. But by leading with your heart, Mary, that created a huge some effect that just continued on and still does, and that's your legacy along with that, Mary. Mm-hmm. That's huge.
Well, and
that's huge.
When people say, well, how do you do that? I don't like to do that. It doesn't matter if you like to do it or not. It's called practicing. One day I asked my sister-in-law, I said, how do you become a good Christian? And she said, you practice. She said, Mary, how'd you learn how to play the violin? I said, I practice. She said, all right, it's the same way you do when you're not good at something. So every time I would get in an elevator to go up in a hotel, at a hospital, whatever it is, people are usually like this. They're not, they're not happy. Turn around and say, well, it looks like you're having a great morning and you're breathing, aren't you? And they grumble and say, well, that means you're alive. That means God's not done with you. The best is yet to come. And they'll either flee from you or they'll engage and talk to you. Okay? So practice. Right? Going into the grocery store, say, God bless you. Or blessings, or good morning. Practice being kind, being full of smiles, full of encouragement. And it just, you don't do it to get back. That's what we should do. If we don't help each other, what's going to happen if we don't help each other? And it's just like whoever's listening today, one advice, I don't know what the biggest questions are necessarily, but in your life that you can bring them in and help each other. Find who can babysit, who can do little things for you that need to be done, who can write letters for you, who can write the Christmas letter for you. For years, we sent out the Christmas letter for the whole family, and people got to know us as family rather than, oh, he's a realtor.
Right. It's a relationship.
Many have called and said, well, it's relationships. And if you're a transaction, yes, it can be actions, but it just doesn't have to be what I have a passion for.
Yeah, for sure.
So I never let you ask questions, Claire. Go ahead.
It's okay. What gives you your grit, Mary? What has given you your grit? Because
what gives me my grit?
Yeah,
I asked my husband, and he said I was very gritty. He said, you have had a drive ever since I've known you to be involved in anything that has to do with people. People bring you energy. To Joe, it's like, oh, please, I have to go and talk to somebody. Oh, just make it 1 or 2 or 3. Can we go now? But I love to be in the middle of people. What can I do to help them? What can we do to share? How can we learn from each other? Yeah. And I'm totally a life learner. I want to learn something every single day that I don't know already.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. Turn off the TV. I know Facebook is wonderful and social media is, but I'm an eyeball to eyeball, belly to belly kind of person.
Belly to belly.
Yeah. That's an old Tommy Hopkins. Get a mentor. The mentors for me have been Tommy Hopkins, Danielle Kennedy. I could go on and on. Zig Ziglar. It does not have to be in our industry. Find the most successful people in your community and go and talk to them and ask them if you could have 5 minutes of their time and ask them what are the 3 things that made you successful. And for me, if you're not successful with your children, that has to become first. And you can fit think about a jar. You put a bunch of rocks in it and then you put sand in it. There's still room for water to come in. There's room for real estate to come in. There's room for everything else. You don't get over us with children. They grow up very, very fast. And our grandchildren have grown up overnight. And that's a precious time. So when you're with them, truly focus on them and truly love on them. And they will grow up to be loving children and accomplished children. Teach them the importance of doing things that matter, things that I think if you can take them where they can serve, that's very important. Dan has had his kids going on mission trips forever and ever and ever. And they've learned that they're not the most important thing. And even though we live in a child-centric world, that doesn't necessarily prepare them. Mother used to say, Mary, my job as a parent is to teach myself out of a job and to make you independent and self-reliant. Now,
very nice.
At 16, I became independent and self-reliant. We would never have called our parents for anything. And it was okay, we're ready for this. Let's go be the best we can be.
I can get
at all times. And I think that's what you always try to encourage for everyone.
Yes.
And children, encourage them to see the best. Mother set a very good example. She always saw the best in everybody, and she never had time to judge. She figured that was God's job, not hers. Because we get judged by the world, don't we?
We do on a daily basis.
So we want to lift each other.
Yes, very much so.
Yes. Read books and
yes.
Follow Gary Keller's book list if you don't, and make sure you read the leadership books. John Maxwell has all kinds of books. If you want something edifying, find out where Christian TV is. And I know I'm pushing Christian, but it happens to be where I am. But there's some wonderful speakers. David Jeremiah, John Hagee, Ravi Zacharias is very intellectual. Anybody who is bringing you up to above where you are, always. And pull everybody else up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So important.
That is what we are doing. To bring others, help others. Yes.
And I think, in parents, when I think about what did my parents teach me, they taught me gratitude, always being grateful, and I'm so hopeful that everybody here is with a heart of grateful when you leave. That is, we're so blessed to live in this country, no matter what else is going on. Stuff. In the end, it's stuff, and to really to focus on what you can do to make somebody else's life better.
Absolutely,
and that will make your life a whole lot better.
It helps one live in abundant joy if we live in gratitude.
Yes,
it does. It facilitates that for sure.
And it's a joy and hug.
I think it's
tell it how wonderful it is because everything else is going to heck in a handcart. That's okay too. Abby Holiday, who lived till she was 104, had the 4 F's. You would go home and she would put on her old Chanel robe with purple grape juice stains all over it, and she would have a pity party. And 24 hours later, she would just dust herself out and she would faithfully forge forward after forgiving, forgetting, and faithfully forge forward. So forgiving is a huge thing. And it's like filling your backpack with boulders when you carry around unforgiveness. Because, clients will be mean. So what? It's not personal. They're just abnormal. And they're just having a hard day. It has nothing to do with you. And you carry it around and you whine about it and you judge on them and whatnot. And in Greek, forgiveness is cut loose. Let it off. And you know who it frees up? You. Don't worry about it freeing up the other people. Forgiveness is no strings attached. Reconciliation is lots of strings attached.
That's a pearl of wisdom there, Mary.
And teach your children that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Forgiveness is cutting loose. Yeah.
It is cutting loose. And that's an important lesson. Focus on, when you get upset with the kids, focus on what you love about them. And try and tell them that. Tell them they're God's most precious jewel. Their most, you're God's most treasured possession. And if you are, then you have to behave like it. As Althea Osborne said when David grew long hair. And he said, well, Mom, he said, you know I've been traveling for a year on foot. Now I'm back to work. And she said, but you have long hair. And he says, yeah, Jesus did. She says, yeah, but you'd have to act like Jesus if you're going to wear long hair then. Are you doing that? So there you go.
Yes, you have to act like
words of wisdom from a great leader. What else might you have to ask?
Mary, I think we could go on all day. And I unfortunately, I just had my coaching call. Well, I shouldn't say that. Fortunately, I just had my coaching call, and I have a very long list of homework I have to get to. So,
I bet.
anyways,
I bet.
So,
well, I'd like to leave you with. I'd love to leave you with a blessing, and that's that. I really hope that you'll help each other that are on this call, help each other in your offices, and strive to be a blessing by giving a pat, giving a little smile, just encouraging, inspiring. One person, 3 people, every single day, and write it down, the things that you are thankful for each day. And if you want to write the 10 things you're maddest about, that's fine first. And then write the things you're most grateful for. And keep a bucket list. And don't let it be, don't let anything stop you. You write down 50 things as quick as you can without judging. Age, your timeline, your money, anything. Don't judge it. Just do it. And you can put it away. And you'll find that when you're my age, you bring out that you've accomplished over, and fun things. Make sure you keep the fun in life. Keep a sense of humor. It's just life. And be happy. Be not happy. Be content. Be content in all things. Happiness is moment to moment. Joy is knowing that you're filled by the Lord. And you only get love and joy and peace and patience and goodness and kindness and gentleness and faith and self-discipline from Him. So just keep that in mind. Just say, okay, God, I need a little help here. And He'll answer
Mary,
you.
He'll
either carry you or you can walk beside Him.
Mary, you are such a blessing to me. You have no idea how I have followed your career. And thank you and your husband both for expanding the greater Heartland region, by which I have a market center here in Little Rock, and I'm able to be part of this Keller Williams family. I mean, really and truly full circle moment for me to be able to speak with you today. Much less.
Well, I think the best thing about what you and I've been able to accomplish is that God has blessed us with children and helped us go through that. Keller Williams has given us a roadmap to go in any direction we want to. We can learn anything from each other and how important that is. And then we can help all of our friends. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, so go ahead.
You can interrupt
You'll find
me
I'm a challenge
any day, Mary Harker. Any day you want, you can interrupt me. I'm good with it. Totally good with it.
Thank you so much, and God bless each of you.
And you're serving on
Make
a panel.
Make a difference in each other's life.
Yes, and you're serving on a panel.
Oh, yes. We'll be on a panel February 18th, Sunday, 7:30 in the morning. Good thing I get up at 5.
Yay! We'll all be there bright now.
So I come to reunion. Probably when you talk about things, when you get to the convention, you know how those long lines are? Meet people. Have your badge. Don't worry about handing out cards or getting their cards unless you want them. but just bless them and ask them, what's the best thing you learned today? Here's one of the best things I did. And go up and down. They will remember you. Without your card, they'll find you. So just bless them. And if you see somebody that needs a prayer, stop and ask them, what can I pray for you for? And if that's not your style, then say, how can I encourage you today?
Right. Yes.
So
yes.
I'll see you at family reunion.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to
ma'am.
it. And thank you for this opportunity. I feel very honored.
I am blessed so much. Thank you, Mary. You have a wonderful Tuesday.
Oh, you too. Bye-bye now.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.